Hello, hello, hello. This is Shahar Boyayan, and you are watching Creativity in Focus. Creativity in Focus is a live, interactive podcast where we highlight an artist and its art every single week. And today it's no different. I have an amazing artist with me. But before we get started, I have a few announcements to make. Like I said, this is a live, interactive podcast, which means that we appreciate your contribution, your comments, and your questions during the podcast. Wherever you're watching, there's a chat box either beside or below the video, or a comment box on social media. Well, you can use that space to ask your questions, tell us your story and things like that during this podcast. So very important thing, because you make us make this possible. And the other thing is, it's really important for us to get the word out about what we do. And we really rely on you to do that. There are a few ways you can do this. One is by sharing the video. Wherever you're watching, there is a share button, and you can share this with friends and groups and pages. This is a content-only podcast. Nobody's going to sell anything, so it's safe for you to add to groups if you want to. Another way for you is to comment, give likes or hearts to the video, because that really tells the social media platforms if they should be showing to more people or not. If you miss any part of this podcast, well, it stays wherever you're watching, so you can come back and watch as many times as you want as well. Okay? So today on my podcast, I have Jen Harris Smith, and she's how do I say, silversmither, jewelry maker, and all of the above.
Work.
And she makes amazing pieces, and we are going to have a conversation about her life, her work, and of course showcase some of her pieces. So Jen, you told me before, and you told in class as well, that you started silversmithing about 4 years ago, correct?
40 years ago.
When did you discover you had a thing for art?
Early on. I was probably, I honestly don't remember a part of my life that art wasn't involved in. I loved art from a very early age, and started taking art classes in 7th grade and just went forward through high school. And in high school, there was a student contest at the end of the year each year, and I began winning awards in those. And so that encouraged me to go forward with art as a major focus of my life.
That's cool. Tell me what you have dabbled with before finding the precious metals.
Well, originally I drew, I painted, and I went to college, and to please my parents, I majored in something I could make money in instead of being a starving artist. And as soon as I was done, I went right back to college and started taking art classes. And so I thought I would be a watercolor major. And I did a lot of watercolor at that time, and it was something I was very interested in. And part of getting an art degree is taking electives. And so one of the electives I decided to take was metalsmithing or silversmithing, and that was it. I didn't have any use for watercolor. I have done watercolor since then, but my number one passion from that time forward has been playing with metal in one way or another. So I took that class over and over again for quite a while, and because they didn't offer a major in metalsmithing, so I got as much out of that, and then I ended up moving out of state. And the move was for my primary career, because I'm a retired probation and parole officer, of all things, which is so totally unrelated to jewelry making.
So that was the profession you chose that could make money in college?
Exactly.
And for how long did you?
I was in criminal justice system doing one job or another for 30 years, and then I retired.
Okay. So go on with the story about how you.
So what I did, because I really, really wanted to be an artist and not a probation and parole officer, was I kept my art going on the side at all times. And about a little over 25 years ago, I guess. Wow, it seems that's a long time. A friend of mine who owned a little nursery shop that raised herbs asked me if I wanted to teach art classes at her venue. And I told her, well, I would try, but I've always been an introvert. And so the idea of just getting up in front of people and teaching them was super scary. And I can still remember teaching the first class because I thought, I'm never going to make it through this.
You're not going to survive.
I'm going to shake and I'm going to faint, or I'm going to do something, but I'm really going to mess this up. But it didn't turn out that way at all. I found out it was something I just enjoyed. I had a vocation for. And so I started teaching there, and then I moved on to teaching at art shops and at art retreats. And so I did that for about 8 years. And in the meantime, I was fortunate enough to travel to Australia twice to be able to teach in that country. And I have a lot of friends there now, and it was such a wonderful, fabulous experience. And the first time I went was for a friend of mine who had gotten sick and she couldn't do it, so I stepped into her spot. And that was scary because she's a fabulous artist. And I didn't know, you know, in my eyes, I couldn't even begin to do as well as she did. But when I got over there, I made a lot of friends. Everybody was very happy. And once I got through that experience, I thought, I have to keep teaching. I just love this. So from that point forward, I was either teaching at a shop or a show or at some other venue or teaching privately. And then 4 years ago, I moved to Utah. And so I originally was teaching up at Kimball, at the Kimball Art Center. And I teach both metalsmithing and fused glass. And so I was there until I found my present spot at Pioneer Craft House because it's 30 miles closer. And no long mountainous curvy drive.
No snow,
So now I'm teaching at Pioneer Craft House. I teach metalsmithing there, and I teach how to make my glass cabochons for jewelry there. And I teach here, and I teach private classes, and I'm having a wonderful time because 4 years ago I retired and finally became the full-time artist I wanted to be.
Oh, so that's the landmark. It's not that you started 4 years ago, because you started way before that, but it's when you say, okay, now I am a professional artist.
Exactly.
That's what that's
my
so
profession is as an artist now, and I'm so proud of that.
That's good. Guest 140 is saying hi, and hi to all of you. Don't forget, this is an interactive podcast, so if you have questions and comments, just use the comment box there or the chat box to ask Jen your questions. So before we move on with the questions, I want to show some of her work here, and we are going to comment a little bit about the process. So let's start with this row first. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Basically the bracelets and the ring. This beautiful guy here. So let me point here, this one. Tell me a little bit about the process here. What are the techniques involved?
So this is a silver, bronze, and glass bracelet. There's a smoky quartz right here that's mounted in this tube setting. This was created with one of my reactive glass stones that I make for jewelry. So I create these by using glass that reacts with other colors of glass, and then you get new colors and you get different designs in the glass, and you never really know what you're going to get until you open the kiln. You can kind of guess, but each time I either get things that are okay, but sometimes I get a wow stone, and this to me was a wow stone. And so this is French vanilla and I think light aquamarine that's reacting together. And so it created a green color out of, I didn't even put green in there. So you can see how you get some surprises and you get some that are expected, but they just turn out so beautifully.
So you're using glass with the same CO or?
Yes.
Yes.
The same COE. I use 90, and but they have different chemicals. So like there's a group of glass that's usually yellow or red, and that is sulfur containing. And then you have a group of colors that are turquoise in color, or they have some kind of blue-green tinge to it, and they have copper in it, and the copper and the sulfur react. So between the two coming together, and they have to be touching, for that reaction to occur, you get things like this stone here and this stone next to it that looks like turquoise is actually glass as well.
So it's a glass piece as well. And it is gorgeous. Okay. Anything about the process here?
No, it's just a simple ring, but the stone, I wanted to highlight the stone rather than the piece because it's so pretty.
Okay. Now the bracelet here.
The bracelet and the ring next to it are made with a process called piercing and overlay. So this is a bracelet that I cut this design out of 20 gauge silver and with a jewelry saw. So this took quite a while to, I had to drill into these holes and then saw carefully around the border and pop the piece out. And I had to do that for every little cavity on here. Just drill a hole, bring the saw blade through and cut out what I wanted. And
it's beautiful. How much would, because it takes a long time in this one. So how much would this be, would you sell this for?
I could not bear to part with that one, but if I did make one like that, I would sell it for probably around $180.
Okay. The crow?
The crow I drew out free-handed on paper, and then I put an outline on it on my silver and then scribed it on because the scribed lines work so much better than Sharpie or anything else.
Beautiful.
And cut that out with a jewelry saw and then soldered it to another piece of metal. And then form it's called a saddle ring because it looks like a saddle coming over the top of your ring. And they just soldered them together, and I haven't decided yet. I have a star garnet that I want to put right here in the middle, but
so you may still
I'm still
continue
trying to
working.
decide that.
And this one?
Okay, so this is called a tension bracelet. And this is a piece of Larimar. It's got bronze on top and a little CZ tube set stone there. But the fun thing about this, and there we go, is this is held on by tension with a band and a hook.
Oh.
So on the back, I also have aquamarine stones.
Nice.
Just so that the back is as pretty as the front.
That's beautiful. I just forgot one thing. You are also a glass artist, correct?
I am.
So tell me a little bit about that. Do you do lamp work? What is it?
I don't do lamp work. I do fused glass only, and I work. I have a glass studio in my house and a metalsmithing studio in my house. It's like
so you go there and say,
heaven.
should I go to the right or should I go to the left?
So to create my glass, I'm doing mostly stones for jewelry right now, but I also do very big pieces. And I've won awards through the local glass guild for the work I've done. And this all started about 10 years ago. I saw a class in Portland that said, just have fun with fused glass. And I thought, I've always just wanted to see what the process was. And so I signed up for the class, and I was just intrigued by it. It was so cool. And so being in Portland and right at one of the, well, actually at that time, two of the major glass suppliers for art glass, I could just take classes to my heart's content. So I decided to learn a bit about fused glass. And started making my own glass, and so I just incorporated that so that I could sell them both at the same time.
So you usually use the glass with some metal?
Usually with some metal.
Okay, cool. Do you mind pointing the microphone to your face?
Sure. Sorry.
That's okay. So your passion is more towards metal or glass?
I have a hard time with that.
Hard time defining, yeah.
But I would say metal.
Now, don't you find it interesting that your first interest as an artist was actually with watercolor, with painting, which is a very two-dimensional thing, and then you also play with pottery, correct?
Yes.
You still do, or?
Not right now, but I certainly did in the past. And
so then you went to something that is a lot more tactile, and tell me a little bit about that, because usually what we see is that an artist that is attracted to painting, for example, they go into other forms of art, but always in the two-dimensional field. Do you find that interesting or not that you go to both? For example, I don't have any interest in two-dimensional work. I need the tactile, I need the 3D on everything I do. Even if I'm making a a greeting card, I will find a way for it to have some dimension.
Well, I was really fortunate in high school to have a high school teacher that pretty much didn't supervise us and let us do whatever was in our mind. And he opened up all the possibilities to us. And so we rotated through different things during the year. And one of the things we did was copper enameling in a kiln. And so I really like, I don't know why I'm so attracted to heat and flame and torches and things like that.
Dangerous things, maybe.
They're very interesting tools to work with. And so I was very drawn to the copper enameling. And that was probably my first experience in making any kind of jewelry was with the copper enameling. And of course, what makes copper enameling is glass. So it's a glass powder on copper. So I had 3D and I had 2D, and I'm very much drawn to the 3D, but I was mostly exposed to the 2D, and so that's where I started. And then once I took that jewelry class and I could create, you know, three-dimensional things, then the two-dimensional kind of faded to the background. And even now, I still, like, I draw in my sketchbook constantly, making designs and everything. So it's not that I don't like 2D, but I just need this feeling of creating an object instead of just a picture.
I get that very well. John Rowe is asking, is your COE 90 bullseye?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
That's what you use, Mace. Now, you said you work as a parole office. Tell me a little bit about that.
I was a parole officer for 24 years.
Wow.
Probation and parole officer. And I have been anywhere from an officer all the way up to a district manager. I have worked for the Parole Commission in Idaho, and I was just kind of a jack of all trades, kind of explored it all. But in the last 10 years of my career, I really started focusing on supervising the mentally ill, because I felt like I could really do the best job with them in creating a safe home, safe place for them to go to, and make sure that they got back on their medication and they were on a mental health team so that they wouldn't fall back into the criminal justice system. Because these are people that they may commit criminal activity, and certainly they do, but maybe not so voluntarily, not so selfishly, not because they're consciously harming another person, but more because they honestly aren't in touch with reality. So, and they tend to fall into homelessness and not being connected to family anymore because their family doesn't know what to do with them. So I felt like I accomplished something very positive in supervising them.
In any situation, did you ever have a chance of introducing art to them, or activities related to that?
Anytime I could refer them into it, because art is very beneficial. And art therapy is a genuine therapy that helps a whole range of people, not just the mentally ill.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of introducing art. Well, I think, in Japan, for example, police officers, they get training in the ikebana or bonsai, and it's exactly for them to be able to deal with something that is not non-violent and know how to create harmony with flowers in that case. But what they are trying to accomplish is should a situation, a very tense situation occur, they would have the time, that split second, to make a decision that could have a more positive outcome and also release the stress on their daily lives, right? I believe in Japan they don't carry guns, if I'm not wrong, but it still can be very stressful.
Even in England, they didn't carry guns for the longest time.
Yeah, many places they don't.
It was an option for us, and so and then for others it wasn't an option. So I worked in 2 different states, and so each state is extremely different in what they do.
But art is not part of any recovery program that is...
No, and it truly could be. Art keeps your sanity, and it keeps you it keeps your mind focused on positive, exciting, forward-moving things instead of the negativity. And it was an extremely negative environment that I was in. And so art was my way of being able to survive that environment without any lasting damage.
And do you see any difference in the result of your art during that period and now? Because like you said, your daily life was intense and negative. When you went to create, how were your pieces of that?
They were very, very similar. And I think that the reason for that is that when you're doing art, you're actually focused on the art. It allows you to what's called hyperfocus. And so everything else just falls away. So you're not really affected by the job so much because the job has fallen away into the background while you're focusing on your creative activity.
That's fun. That's fun. Let's show a few more pieces that you have here. Tell us a little bit about the process.
Okay, so the earrings here and the necklace over here are both made out of copper with a process called fold forming. So they're folded in half, and then I heat them up so that I soften the metal again and then open them, and the fold remains wherever I hammered it. And then I textured the earrings with a hammer. So these are very simple earrings and pendants to make, and I'm actually, this is for a class that I'll be teaching out in the community to more disadvantaged people who they don't have access to tools and the ability to create art. So to be able to introduce them to it, you find a way to make it possible for anybody.
Fantastic. And this little guy, or do you want to talk about this one first?
Oh, well, we can talk. This is just domed earrings. So it's a disc of silver, and I put it in a dapping block and dome it, and then I tube set 2 rubies inside of it. And I really like the way that they came out. And I added ear wires to these that were more rounded, that kind of matched the shape of the earring.
Beautiful.
And the little guy here, so this is turquoise stones that are set on top of a square wire here. And inside of this is a clear slice of geode that I had. And there was a cavity in it, and so I tube set, I did a stone-on-stone mounting of this face and brought it through the back and riveted it so that it could sit there right on top of that. And it's just a serenity necklace. You could see just the back of the rivet right there.
It's very pretty. And this bird, we've seen this bird during your class a few times. I think it's one of my favorite
I will very much miss my bird. But, so this is, originally I was demonstrating for my class how to etch at Pioneer. And so I etched this piece, and it was a demo piece, and I thought that would look so good if I put a stone under it. And then I had this stone, and this is a clearer dichroic stone, so it has a sheen and shine to it. But you can still see through it, so I thought, well, what if I just put something under that made it super interesting and unique? And so this is a piece of antique music, and I coated both sides with a sealant to make sure that even if water seeps into this necklace, it won't be ruined. And then set the stone on top of that so that you could see it. And it says Dolce on this piece of music, and Dolce means sweet. So I thought that it was a sweet piece.
That's very cool. Let's talk about 2 more. So this one?
This is a bracelet, a toggle bracelet that's completely handmade. I even made the toggle clasp that's on it. And all I did was set bezels and put stones into it. And then I made these kind of oval, oblong pieces of jump ring and soldered them together, and then soldered them on the back, and then I used jump rings to connect all of that. And down here I just hung a little
charm.
This is a compass.
Oh.
And then just a little itty bitty piece of dichroic glass there in a bezel.
So how long does it take you to make a bracelet like this?
Well, I get interrupted a lot, so it might take me 2 or 3 days to get the whole project done. But when I was getting ready, I actually was in Craft Lake City a few weeks ago and showing my stuff. I had a vendor booth. And I had the 4 days in front of that, I worked solid 12-hour days. And the only time I left was to eat. And I was amazed at how much I can do when I don't get interrupted.
So you mean you're married, right?
I am.
Is it the husband that interrupts you all the time?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes,
or cats
or
and
the
dogs.
or the cat. And yeah,
That's
so
cool.
we have 3 huge dogs and 1 cat, and they keep us busy.
So I know teaching is something that you're very passionate about.
Very
and
much
you
so.
mentioned that not only you teach at Curious Mondo, but local places as well when you travel. But you mentioned this new project that you have with people with low-income people, right? What's your main goal with them?
I want to make art accessible to everyone. So I used to work at an art retreat, and I just loved it. And they're wonderful places to go to and be at, but they're very expensive. And I would get comments all the time, oh, I sure wish I could take your class, but I can't afford that. So what I want to be able to do is bring the arts to people who can frequently say that they can't afford that, and make it accessible for them in some way so that they can enjoy art too, because art is a therapy that improves your life.
I think beyond therapy, it can be a source of income to the person.
Very much so.
I mentioned this several times before, but in America, people lose their homes to foreclosure on average because of $300. If they only had $300, they wouldn't lose the house. So when you're teaching this, of course there is the therapeutic side, but they can sell. How much could they sell a heart for? Like the necklace or?
Oh, those would easily, for the $20 for the earrings and maybe $20 for the necklace, and if they did it well, and just a steady point of income for them to fall back on. Certainly, I used it as I was single for 14 years and on my own, and my art income backed up my regular income and made life much easier that way.
Me as well.
Yeah.
I always had something coming from art from both sides. First of all, to validate what we are doing. I think that's great. But that extra money, you can say it's play money, but during hard times, it's crucial money, and you have. And I always think, you know, I moved different continents and everything. But in the back of my mind, I always knew that my hands can create income at any point.
Yes.
So however bad a situation could become, I know I could be able to get out because I know how to make something. And that's what I fear a little of what's happening in our society. Because first of all, for a long time, we thought everything can come from China, so I don't need to make anything. It's not worth making because you can get for $1, for $2. But that decreases the level of resourcefulness that we have as people.
It does.
So should a difficult time come, we wouldn't be able to survive, right? We would need help. And why do we put us in the situation of somebody else needs to come and help me, right? Wouldn't it be better to be able to get out of the hole whenever you are? So I think it's fantastic what you're doing. How much the person would be investing to create a necklace and a pair of earrings?
Copper is relatively cheap. And so I think about a 12 by 6 inch sheets, maybe $28, and so you could get
several out of that.
Many sets out of that.
That's so cool. Cindy King is saying, so enjoyed her classes, learned so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, she
really
loves doing
appreciate
this,
the
right?
feedback.
That's so cool.
Well, the feedback's important to me because, you know, when you're teaching, it's not a matter of just spouting out a bunch of knowledge. It's a matter of being able to reach people and talk a language that helps them understand what you're saying. One of the gals today was asking how they would set enamel jewelry in a setting. And so that was really difficult for me because it's very hard to talk visual in language. And so trying to help her picture something in her mind with words is sometimes very difficult. So I love getting feedback from my students. I love finding out that I've reached them in some way and they've been able to learn from me.
So have you had in the past experiences teaching before you start teaching art classes?
No.
Or no? That was so, wow, that's so cool.
So the only thing that came close was when I was working as a probation and parole officer, I volunteered reluctantly to teach, or not even teach so much, but lead groups with the criminal offenders to teach them how to think better. So they were called cognitive self-change classes at that time. I'm sure they've gone through a lot of evolution since then. But we taught thinking errors and better decision making and things like that. So the very first time I taught, I wasn't in management then, so one of the guys that was in management comes in and says, "Hey, I'd like to sit in your class." This is like my first night. And I'm shaking like a leaf. And I'm like, "Oh no, please don't do that." But he came in there, and then afterwards he came up and he said, "Oh, you did a great job, except for your shaky voice and your shaky hands." But
it's because you were scared.
I was scared to death because I'm very much an introvert. I know I don't sound like it, but I am. And so I was absolutely terrified. But his words made it okay for me. I thought, okay, well, as long as I'm communicating and I'm able to move the information in my head to somebody else's head, then I'm on track to go forward. It certainly wasn't good at that point in time, and don't know how good I am now, but
well, for what I see during the chat, during the classes, you do an excellent job. I think teaching is not an easy task whatsoever, but you know, having in mind that the receptor, the student, needs to understand whatever you're trying to convey, and you go in depth in what you were explaining, and that makes a huge difference. So I know you have a knack for that, but I also know that's really your new passion, right? You think teaching is...
I love to teach. I do love to teach, but the only reason I'm super excited about teaching is I'm teaching what's my passion. So any way that I can create more time to work in metal or work in glass is good time, time well spent. And to do it amongst people who absolutely enjoy the same things is like being in heaven. You know, it's just awesome. And so I teach a class all day on Saturday at Pioneer Craft House. That's like the highlight of my week, to be able to walk in there with all of my students and be able to enjoy the day.
That's so cool. Now, can a person make a living making this type of pieces?
They absolutely can. And, you know, it matters, everything matters when it comes down to marketing and going out there and doing the work. So 50% is enjoying your jewelry and making it, and 50% is reaching out to your public, your customer base, and saying, "This is my latest, here it is," being active on social media, taking an opportunity to market yourself and move forward. So you have to do both to be able to be successful in selling your own stuff.
It's not going to be enough.
Right.
There is the sale, and as a society, we resist a lot when it comes the time to ask for money, and even marketing. I know because I work as a consultant for many years, and people have this huge resistance, right? That like almost is a sin, but it's a crucial part of creating visibility and desire for what you do.
Whatever person in your childhood, for me it was teachers that said, "Don't market yourself. Talking about yourself makes you a bad person, makes you an ego, so to speak." And they would say, "Just, no, we don't want to hear about you, you be quiet." So first half of my life, I sat in a corner and was quiet, and ever since then, I've never quit talking, so I'm just warning you. But once you learn how to do it, it's okay. It's not a sin to market yourself. It's the only way people are going to find you. And it's fun. It really is fun.
It can be fun.
I meet all kinds of people, and I really, really enjoy that. I love making new friends, and I love being able to make friends on Facebook and Instagram and have that feedback. So I have a lot of jeweler friends that are on Instagram and Facebook and friended with me. And the greatest thing about that is you have a whole audience that gives you really good feedback on things that you want to know. You know, am I coming across? Is this a good piece of jewelry? Is, you know, and they're very honest in their critique and very supportive, and you're supportive back, and it's a complete community that helps you in that respect.
And today we have the benefit of having groups for every single interest out there. It puts you in contact with other people that are doing what you're doing. It puts you in contact with the same fears you have seeing other people. Oh my gosh, my first show, I didn't sell anything. And it puts you in touch also with professionals that you admire. So it's a unique moment for us to market.
It
that
is.
Can be extremely beneficial.
One of the greatest things about the Facebook groups, and I'm only on Facebook to keep in touch with friends that are far away, and for those groups. I love those groups. And so I was reading the other day, and some woman was doing their very first show, and they'd never done a show before. So she pitches a question out there and says, when you did shows, what did you wish you had done during the first show that you didn't do? And so everybody jumps on the wagon and answers that question, and you get lots and lots of good feedback. And the moderators are super good about getting any flaming remarks off, and don't tolerate people being bullied or talked down to or anything like that. So very safe place to be, very wonderful place to learn new things.
There are some very angry people out there, but they are the minority.
They are.
How many shows do you do a year?
So this is my first year back since I moved, because everything starts over again when you move. I found out. So, in fact, when I started teaching at Kimball, I remember the gal that was in charge of education up there says, well, you need to get on Facebook and market these classes. Well, my entire Facebook book group was either in Australia or in Vancouver, Washington. It wasn't plausible to do that. So it took me a good 3 years just to build up community knowledge and going to the shows and seeing if it was something that I would like to, you know, be in, because some of the shows are not what I am interested in doing. And then once I focused on that, then I joined the Glass Guild here, and I've done several shows through the Glass Guild. So that's at least 2 a year.
2 a year, yeah.
And then I did Craft Lake City this year, and I've already applied for 2 Christmas shows. So.
Wow, you're going to be busy. Let's talk about these last pieces here. So this one.
So this is a piece of my copper enameling, and it's hard to see in the light, but what it is white enamel, and in graphite I drew a feather across
now
it.
I see. Okay.
So it's hard to see with the light because the light hits right where the feather is drawn. And then I created the mountains and the red rock canyons in front of it. And then on the back, I mounted a malachite.
Why do you work the back?
Because almost every time I look down at my pendants, they flip over.
Oh, yeah, that is so annoying. It happens all the time. Let me see. Not today.
Not today, but you know, it flips over and it's like this blank piece of metal.
Yes.
And you just think, gosh, if you just put something on it. And so, and then it started to get to be a challenge. And so this piece here is one of the bigger challenges I've done. I've done 3 or 4 pieces like this now, and this is the only one I have left. This is one of my dichroic glass stones. And on the front, I have put "When You Wish Upon a Star." And then across the stone, I put a wire and soldered on several stars. And then I did the back. And so it has stars and a moon, and it says, "Your dreams come true."
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah.
I really think it's fun to try and do both sides. It makes the soldering just a little bit trickier because you're heating that piece over and over again, and you risk losing one of your solder joins when you do that. But I love being challenged. So all somebody has to do is make it a challenge.
What about this feather?
This feather is fold formed. So you have this line here from where I folded it, hammered it, and then opened it again, and the line stays. And then all the lines for the feather quills were created by hammering it with a screwdriver that I had adapted for making lines in the feather. And then I just cut slits like feathers have in the metal. It's a little easier to see on the other side. And then put a dichroic stone at the top.
It's gorgeous. From all the techniques that you use in your jewelry making, is there one that you think is easier to sell?
No, because, well, no, I should say anything turquoise eventually sells. So people love turquoise. But people are individuals, and they will pick out what is calling to them and what makes them feel special or unique. And so sometimes you hit on that, sometimes you don't. You just continue to make your jewelry evolve to match their needs. So when I tend to make heavy pendants, and so this time when I did the show, I really made an effort to make some very lightweight, small pendants as well.
Did they sell well?
They did.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting because I like big pieces. I don't have anything small or discreet. It's not my thing. I like, well, I think I have a loud personality. I think the package needs to follow that. But you hear a lot about accent pieces and beautiful pieces. But when you're around and you're walking and shopping, you really see people like very delicate stuff. It's hard to find a woman
That's very true.
wearing statement pieces. So I always question myself. So does the statement pieces really in, or what's going on? Because that's not usually what you see on a day-to-day life. On a party or something else, then yes. Do you see the same thing?
Yeah,
pretty much. But we still make the statement ones because they're the fun ones.
So there's two kinds of jewelry that you make. You make the jewelry that you're going to sell, and you make the jewelry that's a challenge. And if it weren't a challenge every day to make something, you would just lose all interest. So I don't care if my statement pieces sell so much as if I get them done and if they teach me what I wanted to learn.
Right.
So, or if I met that challenge and now I'm ready for the next one.
Yeah, I'm like that too. What inspires you?
Oh, other artists mostly. I follow an artist on Etsy who she makes beautiful jewelry. Her jewelry's lovely. It's out of silver. It's message jewelry, so there's always a message to her jewelry. It has some meaning to it. She does blog posts that support that meaning and explain it and make you want to be a part of that. And so I follow her sales. She has sales every couple of months. She announces it. It's going to be this night, this time.
Okay.
Stay tuned. I actually set my alarm so because I don't want to miss it. I may not buy anything, and I generally don't, but she is so fascinating to me that she's done this amazing marketing. She has amazing marketing ability. And then on top of that, her jewelry is beautiful, and she doesn't hesitate to ask the high price for her jewelry. And literally this sells her, everything in her shop sells in less than 15 minutes.
Wow.
And it's a combination of beautiful jewelry and amazing marketing.
Do you know, is she marketing more on Instagram, Facebook? Do you know?
She just sends out a note if you follow her. If you follow her on her website or you follow her on social media, she does send out notices that this show is coming up, and then bang, everybody gets on. She has that many followers because of the way she markets and and her jewelry too.
That's fantastic.
So you kind of aspire to be like somebody like that.
Yes, awesome. What keeps your creativity in focus?
I think I was born that way. When I was like 5 or 6 years old, I picked up a kid's encyclopedia and started reading it, and I read the whole thing.
Really?
I've always been curious. And I've always had a need to be doing something with my hands or my brain or something. I don't sit still well. I'm one of those people that can't watch a TV show unless I have something going on.
Too.
So my tablet's open, or I'll be working on jewelry or doing something. But I'm just one of those people that's constantly saying, what if? Oh, what if?
I did this with this. Yes, I'm like that too. That's cool. So tell us where people can find you. Of course, Curious Mondo is one of the places, but social media, website.
So Jen Harris Smith on Facebook, Jen Harris Smith Studio on Facebook, Jen Harris Smith Studio on Instagram.
Okay.
And I am on Etsy, but right now my shop is almost empty because I'm waiting to see how the new Etsy changes and price increases roll out.
Will impact. But you tend to sell online as well, or not?
It just depends on what happens with
What
Etsy.
happens now.
And then I have on my website, jenharrissmithstudio.com, is right now just a portfolio, but I have the ability to make it into a shop, and I will probably be doing that in the future.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for being here. This is not the only interview Jen Harris has given to Creativity in Focus. A few months ago, she did an awesome interview with, I was going to mess up her name. Can you believe that? She has 11 courses here, and I was going to mess up the name. But I know it's Jody McCraney-Rusho. And if you watch that one, you just go back on the creativityinfocus.com. We have all the interviews that have been done with this podcast. It's very fun. And then they go a lot more in detail on the process of each piece, right? Because, they both know what they are talking about. Here, there's only one person that knows. And so don't forget to watch that one too, because it gives you a lot of insights and hopefully a lot of inspiration for you to create more. I know Jen loves to inspire people to create, and that's why she loves teaching so much. And of course, you can also check her courses here at curiousmondo.com. Well, next week we will have another amazing artist and showcasing their art, so don't forget to tune in. We go live every single, is it Tuesday? Every single, what day of the week it is? At 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to give us a like, and if you really enjoyed this and you're watching this on Facebook, don't forget to like our page, creativityinfocus.com, and if you can take a second and leave a review, that would help a lot. As Jen knows, marketing on social media is not the easiest thing, right? It takes a lot of work, and you can, make it a little easier for us. With that said, I hope to see you back here next Tuesday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.